everyone, here we are with RCM Celebration Series Book 4, and today I would like to show you a piece which I really like in this book, maybe even one of my favorite pieces in this book. It's called German Dance in E-flat major by Ludwig van Beethoven, and as you can see here at the bottom it says this is from 12 German dances. 12 German dances. And this one is number 9. So, this is a nice piece by Beethoven, which is not so complicated. If you're like, I want to play more Beethoven, but not too hard stuff, this is a really easy one. And there's a lot of really great pieces in this book 4, book 3 as well, which are kind of beginner-like, right? More or less. And I love this one because Beethoven just brings something so original to the music. So I'm going to play it for you once with the repeats, and then we'll talk about it a little bit, so that'll get you a little started on this piece. So here we go. Not bad for one page, right? It's such a beautiful piece. I love the way Beethoven spells the chords just right away from the second chord here with the third in the left hand. It's something so original that Beethoven does here. So, okay, let's talk about it a little now, all right? So, number 1, make sure you have a classical articulation. Don't play like this with too much pedal. Get that kind of crispy, sometimes dry classical articulation. Just love that second chord. It's so nice. Maybe slur the first note, or not. I prefer it slurred. And now, probably one of the most defining features that Beethoven is bringing to music, which is unique to him at his time in the context, absolutely, and even today, especially, I would say, still unique to Beethoven, is sforzandos. Sforzandos everywhere, and not on strong beats, on beats that are supposed to be weak, like in this case, 3 in a 3/4 minuet, or yeah. So this is so different. Seems like any other composer would go. And that's not what Beethoven is. That's not his idea for this piece, right? So how much should those sforzandos be? I like to think of sforzandos as kind of like accents, in the sense that they should be done within the dynamic that we have. So this is a piano in the beginning, so the sforzandos are not so loud. However, a lot of experts will say, and I think so as well, when Beethoven writes sforzando, 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 as he does in succession many times, and they're not followed by P, A crescendo is implied. Beethoven is implying that you should do a crescendo. This is like one of these things, like Beethoven says himself, for example, always slow down before fermata. When I write a fermata, always slow down leading into that. So this is kind of a similar thing. You can try it. I encourage you all the time to try when you have sforzanos in succession. Do a crescendo. Do each sforzano more and more and see if you like it. You don't have to do it all the time, but you might find that it sounds better. Let's try it with crescendo in those sforzanos. And that adds really a more direct character that we like in Beethoven. It's going somewhere really intensely. There's also what's kind of surprising in this piece that struck me the first time I played it, and probably you as well, is didn't Beethoven forget a sforzando? You know, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Why didn't he write one here? 1, 2, 3. But he just plain didn't. And that's kind of to be expected of Beethoven. He's writing these things in ways that are surprising, spontaneous, not what you are used to. We're not used to sforzando being on the third beat anyway. This is kind of different. So that's the loudest one, and then the end is like a formality. Yes, thank you, goodbye. Right, so we have that in here. Now, if you've done this dry enough, you might like to change the texture now. That's something to experiment with. Maybe you need to record yourself also to just see, maybe I like this, I don't like this, because that's also nice and appropriate. So maybe it doesn't have to be with pedal or without pedal, legato or dry. Maybe you can play around with it a little bit. It could start out a little wet and then have a dry moment and finish dry, or, you know, there's so many possibilities. Just to explore some here in a moderately spontaneous way, let's try. See how we started wet and by the end took the pedal off and got to yum-ba-dee-dum-bum. You know, it could be the opposite. Isn't that nice, you know? I can't get over how beautiful such a simple piece as this is. So, now this. Whenever you have these things, try to find the simple chords, the skeleton of the music, just the essential things. And you might have an easier time to hear the phrase, how the shape of the overall phrase is, so that you don't go no shape. It's so sad we have no shape, right? Maybe shape up to here, and then shape down towards the end. Make a kind of arch. It's not the only way of doing it. I'm just giving one example, but I think it's the most coherent one. You might like to go. But here's the beauty of this. We play this 3 times because you have the repeat and then the da capo al fine. So it doesn't have to be the same way every time. In fact, it shouldn't, otherwise it gets boring, right? The first time, which I didn't do very well in the playthrough, don't slow down before the repeat. Play on. And the second time, take time the second time. Does that make sense? Right? So, all right, now lots of rotation in the left hand, and listen to yum bum bum. Sorry. the thumb to be too loud. It's a big finger, it's heavy, it's hitting those black keys, and we don't want to. That's a problem, all right? We should barely hear that B flat. Pedal every bar, pedal, pedal. Now pedal off, so we get that. Pedal again. And pedal until you get there. So you're putting pedal kind of as much as you need to, but don't ever let the pedal interfere with the way the articulation should be, right? What's the point if there's those little carrots in the right hand? What's the point if you do them, but you have the pedal out? We don't hear them as such. This is a little tricky. We have to repeat that. B flat in the two hands. Okay, going on. I love this. Something obsessive about that. Maybe that's, not taking enough time. So that's probably a better way of doing it. Again, I didn't do that very well in the playthrough, but finish it and then start again. That's another very classical thing. We don't even have da capo al fines in romantic music, right? Very few. And very important, when the composer, a lot of composers will write ritenuto, sometimes poco ritenuto, molto ritenuto. Now, some are more generous in writing it than others, okay? That does not mean that you only ever slow down when they say to, right? This ending of phrases, it's impossible to write everything exactly as you want it. We would have to probably invent new articulations and we wouldn't be able to even read the music anymore. So you have to go with a kind of common sense, which is bringing out how the piece is built together, right? So if you have, let's say, this section, and now this is the ending of this section, it's natural to slow down at the end of it. So I like to say, if the composer did not write to slow down, then you just do a tiny little bit. Don't do a molto ritenuto at the end of that, right? It's inappropriate. And let's see, I think this pretty much wraps it up. The one thing we could have maybe talked a little bit more about in this video is how every time a section repeats, you don't have to do it the same way. Vary it up a little bit, change the texture, like we said here. Can be different both times. You can change the dynamic, How would this sound? Let's just try the trio again. Do something different. Don't have much idea now, but tried to change the character a little. Maybe that would be appropriate to do it one time softer than the other. This time loud and then soft the second time. Or you can do soft and then loud the second time. But find ways to keep it always original, because when you hear the same thing exactly the same way twice, it just doesn't sound good. It sounds, we just heard that. There's a little problem there. So that's it. German dance in E flat major. I think you can find this on imslp.org. If I see it there, I will put a link in the description so you can go ahead and download it. And stay tuned, because we're going to talk about many more pieces in this RCM Celebration Series. I like the RCM Celebration Series. I'm not sponsoring them or anything, but they're or they're sponsoring me. But I just like it. I like teaching with it because it's a great variety of music in there, especially in the modern pieces. There's some really great stuff, and especially also in the earlier levels like 3, 4, and 5. A lot of great stuff in there. So stay tuned until next time.